Well, good morning, friends, and a happy and blessed 4th of July to you, patriots. It is so great to see you this morning. I have a lot of preparation to do for our 4th of July celebration today, but I did want to celebrate a little bit with you by sharing a 4th of July ghost story. I did my all my graduate work in history and all of that, but as like most historians, I have a very small niche that I specialize in. So, don't ask me about the details of the feudal system in England or, the events leading up to the fall of the Berlin Wall. I do folklore of the United States, basically, so, and also religious history of the United States. So, um, a few weeks ago, when I was invited to do a job for a travel app company that I do freelance work for, and found out that it was about New Jersey in the Revolutionary War, I had to start digging back in the file cabinet in my brain to try to remember, those events. But it's been really fascinating to delve deeper into the history of the American Revolution. And I did encounter some additional ghost stories about the Revolutionary War that I wasn't aware of before, including one of the craziest stories I have ever heard. And it's definitely a story about one of the most legendary generals in the Revolutionary War, the American Revolution. But he's not legendary for most people because of what he did in the war, but because of what happened to him after death. General Mad Anthony Wayne was a very distinguished general in the American Revolution. He was, one of Washington's right-hand men. He spent the winter at Valley Forge with Washington and his troops. He was known to sleep on the ground with his men, and he would also at Valley Forge often be seen by the men at night, um, walking the grounds, watching over them as they slept in that bitter cold winter of starvation at Valley Forge. He was also sent out as part of the Grand Forage to forage in New Jersey by General Washington. It was a big part of the event in New Jersey, and he was a fearless leader, and he loved to fight. Oftentimes, he would even leave his exhausted men behind and go and fight by himself. Oftentimes, he led men to a win in battle when they were outnumbered 10 to 1. So he was really well known among his men for his courage and his craziness in fighting. That's where he gets the name Mad Anthony Wayne. But he's not like a household name to us, and as she should be. But he is legendary in the annals of American ghost lore. He, after death of gout in Erie, Pennsylvania, after this was after a very distinguished career where he retired and became a planner and then went to fight again in the Indian Wars. So he finally passed away. I think he was 52, very old, at the time. And he was buried on the parade ground at the military base where he died. And he rested in peace for 12 years. And a lot of people said that his burial wasn't special enough for someone who had been so distinguished and so voracious in life. Well, they didn't know what was coming because 12 years after his death, when Wayne's daughter was very ill, she decided that she wanted to be buried. When she died, she wanted to be buried next to her father. So she asked her brother to go to Erie and to get their father's bones and bring them back to the family burial ground in a hill in Pennsylvania. And this was in Radnor, where they lived. So he wanted to please his sister. So Isaac Wayne, General Wayne's son, he got all suited up and he took a very light cart with him to over the 300-mile or 400-mile journey from Radnor to Erie. And he brought a trunk with him on this light cart to put the bones in and bring them back. He had arranged for a doctor that his father liked to meet him and help with the exhumation. So they arrived there and they brought up the coffin of General Wayne on the parade ground. And Isaac, the son, excused himself because he didn't want to see his uh, father's bones. He wanted to put them in the trunk and bury them when he got home. He wanted to remember his father the way he was. So he stepped aside, and the doctor opened up right up the coffin nails and opened up the casket. And lo and behold, General Wayne's body was almost completely intact, or one leg and foot that had decomposed. So now there was a quandary because Isaac Wayne had come all the way by himself, 400 miles with this light cart. There was no way that he could carry this heavy, full body back to Radnor. So the doctor had an idea, and it was possibly one of the worst ideas of all time, but there was nothing Isaac but the doctor got some local men to help them, and they dismembered General Wayne's body, and then they boiled him in a kettle to remove all of the flesh from his bones so that Isaac could take just the bones home in his trunk and bury them in Radnor, Pennsylvania. So when this gruesome deed was done, they put the flesh that had come off of Wayne's bones back into the coffin, put it back in the ground, and they threw, I think the doctor realized how freakish the thing that he had just done was. Then he threw all of the dismembering tools and everything into the grave with it, and they covered the general back up. So poor Isaac Wayne puts the trunk on the cart and starts walking back to Radnor, Pennsylvania, 400 miles away. And those roads in Pennsylvania were bad, rocky. There are rocks and stones everywhere, tree roots, gnarled trees, debris, rubble, tree stumps. And he's pulling this cart behind him, and it's rumbling, rumbling, rumbling. And the lid pops open, and bones start rattling around. And he makes it finally back to Radnor, and he gets a new casket, and he starts to put the skeleton back together in the semblance of, his father's body skeleton. And he discovers that some of the bones missing. They rattled right off the cart on that rickety ride back home and fell at places along the road, presumably. So anyway, they have the funeral, right? He is there, family members are there. There are thousands of groups that come to General Wayne's funeral in Radnor at St. David's Churchyard. And the cavalry groups assemble before dawn, and they march for hundreds of miles to come to the funeral of this man that they so respected. So now General Wayne has not only two graves, the one in Erie with his boiled flesh and the one in Radnor with his bones, but several other unknown grave sites along that path from Erie to Radnor where his bones jumped off the cart. This wasn't even the end of it, because the grave site in Erie was eventually lost when there was an arson at the site, at the building at the site. And then the parade ground was regraded, and it wasn't until many years later that a local doctor decided he was going to be determined to find the gravesite of General Wayne, and he did so. And when they opened up the coffin that time, it was those pieces were mostly decomposed, and they reburied it. But you can see the original coffin lid at the local historical society and a replica of the kettle that Wayne's body was boiled in 12 years after his death. Today, every January 1st, which is General Wayne's birthday, they say that General Wayne makes the ride from Radnor to Erie, between the gravesite of his bones, where his son laid him to rest, and the gravesite of his flesh in Erie, Pennsylvania, which was his original gravesite. And so they say when they see him, he's on horseback astride his trusty steed, Nab, that was always with him in life when he was fighting the American Revolution. And every once in a while, his ghost gets off of his steed and looks around the ground for something lost, something very precious. Indeed. I hope you've enjoyed this 4th of July ghost story. of the American Revolution. And I hope you have a blessed, blessed celebration of freedom today, wherever you are. And I appreciate you. And I'm so grateful to be part of your life this day and always. Thanks so much. Have a happy and safe 4th. Take good care. Bye.